seats and let's have a conversation. Today we conclude this 5-week series of Positively Positive. And today our focal point is simply this: maintain a positive attitude. Turn to your neighbor and say, maintain a positive attitude. Now, I didn't say based upon your current situation or conditions or circumstances. I said maintain a positive attitude. Add this to it no matter what's going on in your life. See, I've discovered that I can come out of something a lot quicker if I maintain a positive attitude while I'm going through it. See, sometimes while you're pressing your way through, you get stuck because you added weight to your situation by carrying on the wrong kind of attitude or demeanor. But I come to release you today. I don't care what you're going through. I'm commanding, I'm declaring, I'm setting an atmosphere that in this house we will raise up a generation of believers that will maintain a positive attitude no matter what. If there are any athletes in the house, you understand sometimes the scoreboard does not look favorable, but you got to keep on playing because that thing will turn around. But if you put your head down in defeat, you'll never, ever make a comeback. I know you may get tired of this. It has become like a cliche here now, but I just believe that God has put an anointing on me to raise up a generation of comeback kids. I wish I had somebody in the house right now that can declare, I'm a comeback kid. I'm a comeback boy. I'm a comeback girl. I'm a comeback man. I'm a comeback woman. My family coming back. My finances coming back. My mind coming back. My future coming back. My destiny coming back. I know I've been through some stuff. I know I lost some stuff, but I just made my mind up. I'm going to come back this season. Oh, I dare you to shout right now. Coming back because I'm going to maintain a positive attitude. Now, over these 5 weeks, we have established a very solid foundation. I have given you principle on how to be positive. And if I was you, I would make sure I get all 5 of these lessons and put it in your library and listen to it over and over again, because you need to stay positive. You need to remain positively positive no matter what comes against you. So get this word and put it in your spirit. But before we leave this series, I want to make sure that not only have you obtained the ability to become positive, but today I got to seal the deal by making sure you remain positive. Because let me warn you, you will be challenged. There will be periods in your life. Let me just tell you. Last Sunday, I left here. It was Monday. Neighbor rings my doorbell, frantic that I had this big tree in my backyard that was falling apart. And she said she was afraid the tree was going to fall and crash her house, or crash my house. It's a tree. Figure a tree don't cost that much to deal with. The tree cost me $1,000 to deal with. Next day, I get in my car on the way to the post office to take care of church business. I'm driving, listening to the radio, and the radio turns off. All the locks start going click, click, click. I'm like, whoa. All my dashboard lights come on and cars say, boop, boop, boop. I have a shirt on with my last name on the back of it. I'm stuck in the middle of the traffic. So that I couldn't front like it wasn't me. Stranded on the side of the road, walking with a designer shirt on like, oh, man, this don't look right. Worked the car out. Next day, my wife lays in bed all day. I say, well, she's just tired. About 9 p.m., she says, take me to the ER. She don't say stuff like that. She goes to the ER to help other folks. She don't go to the ER. We get there and the doctors say, after they run a series of tests, we got to keep her for a little while. But throughout all of this, from Sunday to Sunday, I made my mind up. I would have a positive attitude. And I kept telling her, don't worry. No matter what the doctors say, we're going to remain positive because folks are watching to see how we're going to respond under our own personal adversity. You got to understand something. See, you can't be as swagged out as I am and then run from adversity. You can't stand before people and say, I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. Then when something happens in your life, you start punking out. If you're going to declare that you are a man or a woman of God, you got to be willing to declare no matter, even if a storm is breaking out in your life, you got to stand up in the storm and say, I know who my God is. And if peace be still. You got to understand something. This is not about you anymore. This is about the people that are watching you, because you've shown up here enough now where somebody is watching you and they want to see what kind of faith you really have. On that job, they want to know what kind of believer are you really. When layoffs happen, are you really a believer? When sickness happens, are you really a believer? Or are you going to start complaining like everybody else? Are you going to start acting like you're afraid like everybody else? Are you going to stand up and say, I'm going to maintain a positive attitude because I know the God I serve? He was doing a negative thing on his way to a negative place. Paul, and I believe the reason God used Paul so greatly is because Paul was once so messed up. Because God wanted you and I to eliminate the excuse of self. I come to set you free. You are not in your own way of a breakthrough. If God can take this no good rascal Saul and turn him into Paul, yes, God can take you. I don't want to hear about where you've been. I don't want to hear about your record. I don't want to hear about your stripes. I don't want to hear about what you've been through and what you did wrong. I don't want to hear that. It's time to put that aside, and it's time to grab hold to your destiny. Paul reminds them of my previous way of living. Remember back in the old church, they had this thing called testimony period. I believe one of the reasons they cut out testimonies because people were lying too much. Because no one was real enough to tell the truth about where they've been. Even the most horrifying testimony was still washed up. Let me clean it up some before I tell them church folks what. See, because they really can't handle what I really used to be. If I really told them the truth about where I come out of and where I come from and what I've done, if I really tell them the raw truth before I clean it up, they probably won't sit next to me. They probably won't invite me to lunch anymore. They probably won't call me for prayer anymore. They'll probably say something like, I'm not anointed enough to pray with them. If they really knew what I've been through, they probably stop calling me brother and sister and start calling me them. You know how you church folks are. Come on now. Don't act like you know how you church folks are. I don't really understand why you're that way because you one of them too. You used to be a them just like I used to be a them. So I really don't understand why you be tripping on folks after all that stuff you've done. I've seen, see, that's why when I visit your house, I look for the old photo albums. Yeah. You cleaned up now. Yeah, him lying a little lower now, but I saw the way it used to. Yeah. I saw before the arthritis and the gray hair, how I used to drop it like it's hot before it was. And then I look and see how many of your baby got the same last name. Now you're so holy that, you know, it stinks when young ladies dress too high, but all your kids don't got the same daddy, so you too know what. But Paul says, I know you heard about my previous life. And in today's society, Paul would have just told them, just Google me. And let me see if you're going to still befriend me after you Google me. So Paul reminds them. And listen, you have to be willing to put your own stuff out there. If somebody gonna write my story, I want to be the author, because you may not put the right twist or spin to it. So if anybody gonna tell my story, let it be me. Look at verse 15. Just walking through the text. First, after Paul says, you know what I used to be. You didn't know when to shout. Paul said what I used to be. Paul said what I used to be. Paul said what I used to be. What I used to be. He does not say what I am. He says what I used to be. And there's nothing wrong with who you used to be. Just stop being who you used to be. Paul says in verse 15, I wish I had more time. I would just dissect this whole book of Galatians. But let's jump to verse 15. Paul says, but when God, who set me apart from my mother's womb and called me through his grace. See, Paul says, I know you know where I've been. I know you know what I've been through. I know you know what I've done. But let me drop this but in your conversation. Because you would not be able to diss me without saying but. If you're going to talk about my negative past, if you're really real with yourself, if you really want to keep it 100, don't just tell them what I've been through. Make sure you add the but, because the but erases everything you just got through talking about, because the but says, but God. I wish I had some people in here that can declare their own personal walk. I was on my way the wrong way. I was messed up. I was out of my mind, but God. Oh, child, I can stop right there. I can put a period right there. But God, do I have anybody in here that can rejoice that they have a but God story? Was anybody? Maybe I'm the only one that can say, I know I was wrong, but God. I know I was lost, but God. I know I was a sinner, but God. And that was all after I got in church. But God. That's why I jump. That's why I scream. That's why I shout. That's why I'm so loud, because I have a but God story. And I'm raising up a generation of people that have a but God story and not ashamed to tell the world what they've been through, because while they're sharing what they've been through, they got to drop in, but God. We don't sing it much, but his grace is still amazing. Every time I get in an environment that's new and folks start saying, man, we heard about you. And they almost, and I'm not being braggadocious, but they almost starstruck sometimes. And I'm like, wow. That wasn't always the way they looked at me. But then I got to scream, but God! Now and then, when you're in the gym and you're working out, sometimes you start feeling tired. That's why it's recommended whenever you're lifting heavy weights to have a spotter. What the spotter does is not lift the weights for you. What the spotter does is guide you through the process. So when it looks like the weights are getting too heavy, the spotter just tilts it back in your favor. When it looks like what's over you is getting ready to crush you, the spotter just gently. And while the spotter is gently raising, it's like your strength started. See, you thought they were jerking because they were holy. You thought they were jerking because they were sanctified. They were jerking because that weight was violent. Let us not become weary. And I can't not become weary if I'm operating under the world system. I don't got enough time to unpack this, but I'm going to get tired if everything about me is connected to my worldly sources. Because fear will cause internal damage. Fear. So the person I was talking, and she said, you know, the old folks, like Aunt Dorothy and them, used to say that stress will kill you. And what the old school was saying was that when you have stress in your life, you may have a smile on your face, but stress is killing you inside. And stress comes when your source is not God. Stress does not come when God is your source. So if you're under stress and under pressure, check your source. Then Paul says, number 2, there's a promise of a due season. Real quickly, I'm going to just tell you to focus on the promise. Tell your neighbor to focus on the promise. You won't get weary if you focus on the promise. Let me go back to the airport. Before I get on the plane, I already have reservations and a ticket. You're a crazy man to go to the airport without a ticket or reservations. Because when you have a ticket with reservations, it tells you the plane gonna take off at a certain time. And no matter how early you get there, the plane not gonna leave until it's designated time. No matter how early you get there, you can walk and pace the airport all day and all night. The plane not gonna take off till the due time. But if you wait with joy, it'll make the waiting a whole lot better. Because the plane not gonna take off. Hit your neighbor and say the plane not gonna take off until it's scheduled time. Many of you are becoming impatient because ain't nothing happened yet. That just means your due season haven't arrived yet. But Paul says don't become weary. There is a due season, so that means there is a promise. Number 3, Paul says manifestation is coming. Manifestation is on the way. Preacher, what does that mean? Have you ever been to the theater? Have you ever been to the picture show? Have you ever been to the movie? And while you're waiting for your movie to come on, this thing called coming attractions will come across the screen. It'll let you know you're not getting ready to see this movie. But hold on, because after a while, this movie is going to come out. But the thing about the coming attraction, it's already been written. It's already in the box. It's just not time for its release yet. So while you're sitting in the theater watching your movie, which is your current situation, the coming attraction is not based on the current movie they're showing. What am I saying? Your future, your destiny, your manifestation, your due season, your harvest is already in a can. It's just waiting on its arrival date. But I've never seen anybody sitting in a movie getting mad because the coming feature is not showing. You just sit there, eat your popcorn, drink your water, and keep on smiling and staying positive, because if they said it's coming, it's going to show up. After a while, you're going to look up and that thing that was coming is now here. That's why Paul says, number 4, as I get ready to bounce, Paul says that's why you can't give up. I dare you to become the preacher of your role and help me out. Tell somebody that's why you can't give up. That's why you can't bail out. Because if you leave right now, you're going to miss the coming attraction. If you walk out right now, you're going to miss the ending. I'm getting ready to leave right now. But how many of you were watching the Buffalo Bills play against the Houston Oilers back in the day, and it looked like Buffalo couldn't win? Many of you turn your TVs off. That this game is boring. The Oilers got it in the bag. But what you didn't realize is Buffalo had a backup quarterback, and Buffalo had a backup running back, and Buffalo had a backup cornerback, and Buffalo had a backup place kicker, all in the game for the first time. And even though the rest of the team had their head down, if you ain't never been in the game and all of a sudden they call your number, something on the inside of you telling you, I can come back. Anybody here believe you got a comeback spirit? That's why Paul said you can't give up. I know the scoreboard says you're real down, but tell your neighbor you can't give up, because I saw a backup score a touchdown. I saw a backup catch an interception. I saw a backup kick a field goal. I saw a backup back up the scoreboard and come back and win the game. Preacher, what are you saying? I'm saying right now, stand on your feet real quickly. Stand on your feet real quick. Grab somebody by the hand. Grab them by the hand and squeeze it real tight. Tell that person whose hand you're holding, say, you are a miracle waiting to happen. But if you give up, you cancel your ability and your opportunity to make a fourth quarter comeback. That's why I'm holding your hand real tight. Because if you get weary and get ready to quit, I'm going to hold you. I'm going to hold you up. I'm not going to be like Baby and Ray Ray. I'm not going to tell you what you can't do. I'm going to tell you, you can. You shall. You will. 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 And after a while, you're going to look up and you can. You shall. You will. Becomes. You have.